Hannah, it's been a couple of years since we last spoke, but I know through social media you've been doing a lot. So take us through a couple of things you've been doing recently.
Well, to talk about my career first of all, I had an album out since you last saw me. I've been performing solo away from Daniel Roberts. But the biggest thing of all is probably the WPO, and that's what I'd like to talk to you about today. That's our professional orchestra in Thurrock, and we've just been awarded Heritage Lottery funding for our next project, which will involve the whole community.
In what way will it involve the whole community?
Well, it's a very personal project. It's about Thurrock's heritage, and it's about Belmont Castle, not the school, but the building or the manor house that the school was named after. And so the whole community will be asking for volunteers to research over the summer. That's at the British Library, Thurrock Museum, and at the Royal Academy of Music. And it can be a family day out. We're happy to pay travel expenses for that. Then from September to November, we'll be working in workshops in schools. The WPO musicians will be coming in, working with the children, and this will culminate in a final concert on the 11th of November, where we will be reconstructing Belmont Castle, its pleasure gardens, and the concerts that went on there.
What do you know about Belmont Castle? Because it sounds like a bit like a hidden history of Thurrock.
Yeah, I started looking into the idea. Because we are an orchestra for Thurrock, I felt we should do something more personal than just play the music we want. So I put the words in promenade concert, pleasure gardens, and Thurrock, and it came up with Belmont Castle. So I started looking into it, and Belmont Castle, the family that built it lived in the sort of lakeside area. They owned the chalk pits that were lakeside, and they started as ship makers in the 18th century. They were in that period of time where your luck could change on a penny. So they went from very poor to very rich over a small period of time. I think merchant seamen, that kind of thing. After a while they started doing quarrying for chalk, and so lakeside as it is all down to this family. And then I think in 1793, round about point 1790s, they decided to put the cherry on top of their cake, and they built a neo-Gothic huge castle in Thurrock. They built it on the boundary lines right next to the other chalk pit, and they basically used it as a brag to the neighbours. 10 years later the neighbours built a similar castle so they could show back what they could do. Oh, and once a year they opened up their beautiful pleasure gardens and surroundings for the whole community and performed promenade concerts like the WPO do.
Where did you find out all about this?
Well, initially Google, and then I spoke to the Thurrock History Society, and then I started researching a bit more about where can we find out more, because it's difficult. There's maps of the period that are held by the government and by museums, and we found out through speaking to the British Museum and the British Library that they hold pictures, photos, archives, and even programs and maps to show us the whole location and about this family. One of the family members loved Beethoven. She performed it, she married a violinist, and a lot of their information is in the libraries, and we'd love Thurrock to get involved and help us find out more.
So how can Thurrock get involved?
Well, number one, you can help us for days out. We're offering days out to go and research with us, go to the library, but also we're looking for personal stories. So we would like, for instance, my granddad remembers the promenade concerts from when he was a child in probably the 1930s, and he told us what the events were like. Sadly, my granddad's passed away recently, but there should be other people in Thurrock who can remember Belmont Castle as a child, what it was like to go there. If groundkeepers, they had lots of groundkeepers until the Second World War, and anyone who has those stories or has a family member that has those stories, come forward and we will be helping you out, share your stories. We're making a documentary as well, so we'd love to interview people, and yeah, we hope to have lots of response from that.
Your career, is your career going in the directions you thought it would go, or it just seems quite diverse now?
Yeah, it's getting more and more bizarre. I think in order to survive in classical music, which is a niche market, you have to be kind of laid back. I'm probably one of the first classical musicians to, or certainly to, perhaps not the first, but one of the most prolific users of social media, in particular Twitter. And that's helped me out tremendously. I've also started looking into, while arranging all my business side, which is now the orchestra, how to do concerts while I'm here in Thurrock, which has cut down 50% of my travel, and I found an online platform called Stager. And this is remarkable. So I can film any of my concerts, and people from all around the world watch the concert. It's donation only. You can set a price, but I set it as donation only, and they tip throughout the concert. If they like, instead of clapping, they tip. Actually, so I get paid to perform online. I do concerts from my house, so people pay to watch my practice sessions. So at night, or I normally schedule it for America, that's my biggest audience, and people pay to come in and watch me practice and talk to me about my practice. I've become an inspirational speaker, which was not something that I dubbed myself as or marketed myself as. Someone, an OBE, he came to one of my concerts and approached me, and said he wanted me for an event, and I found that slightly strange, but you've got to keep yourself open. So I gave him my management's email, and it turns out he does inspirational speaking events, and I am doing it for the Radio Times, along with Paralympians and magicians. I'm the musical side, so I play for them, and then I talk about how I achieve what I do, how I create a project. And yeah, that's quite a cool part of my job.
Enjoying it all?
Yeah, it wasn't what I expected. When I graduated, I thought it'd be the very traditional, get booked, do a solo with orchestra, go home. It's slightly different. I had to learn new skills, how to tweet, how to be more approachable, how to be an all-round package just opposed to just playing. But it's very, very enjoyable.
Hannah Woolmer, thank you very much for your time.